There is no such thing as freedom of choice unless there is freedom to refuse. A wise man proportions his belief to the evidence. Beauty in things exists in the mind which contemplates them. When men are most sure and arrogant, they are commonly most mistaken. It is seldom that liberty of any kind is lost all at once. Slavery has so frightful an aspect to men accustomed to freedom, that it must steal upon them by degrees, and must disguise itself in 1,000 shapes, in order to be received. Nothing is more surprising than the easiness with which the many are governed by the few. All knowledge degenerates into probability. If God is omnipotent, omniscient and wholly good, whence evil? If God wills to prevent evil but cannot, then he is not omnipotent. If he can prevent evil but does not, then he is not good. In either case he is not God. Anything that is conceivable is possible. I do not have enough faith to believe there is no God. To hate, to love, to think, to feel, to see, all this is nothing but to perceive. Justice is a moral virtue, merely because it has a tendency to the good of mankind, and indeed is nothing but an artificial invention to that purpose. The same may be said of allegiance, of the laws of nations, of modesty, and of good manners. All these are mere human contrivances for the interest of society. Truth springs from argument amongst friends. The life of man is of no greater importance to the universe than that of an oyster. The difference between a man who is led by opinion or emotion and one who is led by reason. The former, whether he will or not, performs things of which he is entirely ignorant. The latter is subordinate to no one, and only does those things which he knows to be of primary importance in his life, and which on that account he desires the most, and therefore I call the former a slave, but the latter free. Beauty is no quality in things themselves, it exists merely in the mind which contemplates them, and each mind perceives a different beauty. The gazing populace receive greedily, without examination, whatever soothes superstition and promotes wonder. A little philosophy makes a man an atheist, a great deal converts him to religion. Reading and sauntering and lounging and dozing, which I call thinking, is my supreme happiness. The corruption of the best things gives rise to the worst. Nothing appears more surprising to those who consider human affairs with a philosophical eye than the easiness with which the many are governed by the few, and the implicit submission with which men resign their own sentiments and passions to those of their rulers. Anticipation of pleasure is, in itself, a very considerable pleasure. And what is the greatest number? Number 1. Of all sciences there is none where first appearances are more deceitful than in politics. The supposition that the future resembles the past is not founded on arguments of any kind, but is derived entirely from habit. When I hear that a man is religious, I conclude he is a rascal. History is the discovering of the principles of human nature. No amount of observations of white swans can allow the inference that all swans are white, but the observation of a single black swan is sufficient to refute that conclusion. Be a philosopher, but, amid all your philosophy, be still a man. Men often act knowingly against their interest. He is happy whom circumstances suit his temper, but he is more excellent who suits his temper to any circumstance. Of all the animals with which this globe is peopled, there is none towards whom nature seems, at first sight, to have exercised more cruelty than towards man, in the numberless wants and necessities with which she has loaded him, and in the slender means which she affords to the relieving these necessities. Everything in the world is purchased by labor. Nothing indeed can be a stronger presumption of falsehood than the approbation of the multitude. Eloquence, when in its highest pitch, leaves little room for reason or reflection. It is not reason which is the guide of life, but custom. The sweetest path of life leads through the avenues of learning, and whoever can open up the way for another, ought, so far, to be esteemed a benefactor to mankind. When men are most sure and arrogant, they are commonly most mistaken, giving views to passion without that proper deliberation which alone can secure them from the grossest absurdities. Mohammed praises instances of treachery, inhumanity, cruelty, revenge, and bigotry that are utterly incompatible with civilized society. While we are reasoning concerning life, life is gone.